G'day, champions.
Hello.
Hi. I'm just going to continue that as
making
forever.
it stupid. Hi.
Years from now to be like, why does he intro like that? Welcome back to the A to Z podcast with your kind of okay, not going to oversell it, but we're all right. Hosts, Zoe and
Alan.
breaking conventions, broken new ground.
Subverting expectations.
And you never know when it'll be the next time that you do it. It'll be like a surprise, like an Easter egg.
Correct.
Will he say Ellen this time? No one will know. First things first, sorry for missing a week. We are shithouse. We are inconsistent. Turns out if, one minor thing changes in our schedule, then like all bets are off. So apologies. Also potentially get used to it. No, it may be just a thing that happens. But we would like for it to not, but otherwise, if we miss a week, it's just going to be same time, same place sort of thing. But yeah, sorry about that.
I think you're generally pretty consistent, and then I'm horrendously inconsistent. So by our powers combined,
we will be mildly consistent.
Yeah.
And mildly inconsistent. Yeah. So for episode F, we are going to be talking about fears and phobias. Just for another quick little cheeky trigger / content warning, we're not talking about anything graphic or anything like that, but just want to be considerate of the fact that we'll just be mentioning some of the classic fears and phobias, and if that's one of your things and it kind of, impacts you, this is your heads up. Again, nothing graphic, but just being considerate of your feelings. So, Alan, what are you afraid of? I would like you to reveal your deepest vulnerabilities to strangers on the internet. What do you fear? Spiders. Yeah?
Don't like them.
Yeah.
Would I say it's an actual phobia that shuts me down? No.
No, we're going to get into the differences, but you don't literally have to answer that. That was just kind of a debate intro, yeah.
Okay, cool.
We'll circle back to that. But so today's we're talking about fears, by extension, phobias, what's the difference, etc.
One starts with PH and one starts with F.
But they both sound like F.
Yeah.
You've nailed. That's the only difference, actually. That's, in fact, the only difference between fears and phobia. You've done it. You've cured us all. We'll start off with, the difference, just to set it out, because I mainly wanted this to be more about just fear, but because phobia ties into it so closely and comes up so much with it, it's kind of best to do both. So we'll tackle the intense part of it first. So for a super watered down definition, fear is a normal reaction to a threat, while a phobia leads to a fear response even when you're not in danger. That's the bare bones. Fear is standard, comes pre-installed on all the baby models, you've got it. Phobia is I'm still in danger when there is no danger.
Yeah, so it's anxiety. It's worrying about it when it's not there.
Yeah,
versus I'm afraid of that tiger that I can see.
You've just stolen my examples.
Oh.
But yeah, basically, fear is a natural and it's a standard emotional reaction when you believe there is a real and imminent danger. So, for example, it makes sense to be scared if you're taking a hike and you see a bear or a drop bear for us. This emotional response prepares you to take action and avoid harm. For example, okay, it's time to back away slowly and get away from the threat, but you're going to have that fear response. And your fear lasts until you are away from the bear. For same example for fear, I'll use a spider in the house. It's normal to react fearfully to a potential poisonous threat. Your fear subsides once the spider's gone, i.e. you call Zoe over to remove it, or you nuke the house with 2 cans worth of bug spray. Spider's gone, fear resolved. Yeah?
Sometimes. Unless it runs somewhere.
Well, if spiders,
you don't know where it
if
is.
You know that it's gone.
Yeah. If I physically see it die.
Yeah.
Or be relocated.
Be rescued from your path of destruction.
Yeah.
A phobia, however, is a type of anxiety disorder. So phobias trigger an overwhelming anxiety even when it's clear you aren't in danger. So for someone with arachnophobia, even just seeing a spider on TV could make them very anxious or panic. And that fear response is in overdrive, even though the spider on TV poses no imminent threat to their safety.
I know somebody who had to leave the cinema in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, with the Shelob.
And his wife had to message him when it was gone. He physically couldn't watch the movie.
So she was like, okay, you can come back in now sort of thing oh wow. I mean, it's still a very spidery spider, even though it's a fantastical spider, yeah. Did he enjoy the movie otherwise?
Oh yeah, totally.
bloody Shelob getting in the way.
Mm.
Phobias can also come with physical symptoms like sweating. There's a whole list. Sweating, trembling, nausea, vomiting, feeling like you're losing control or literally dying, a need to use the restroom, chest pain, difficulty breathing, rapid heartbeat, feeling lightheaded or dizzy, butterflies in your stomach, and good old-fashioned panic attacks. So
Are
not
you
a good
sure,
time.
or was that the list of side effects of female contraception?
No, that has about 17 different heart-related issues and brain-related issues and maybe just blood clots everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's like half.
Okay.
We'll jump into the phobia bit first, just kind of like set up the difference and to like emphasize. Again, fears, standard human response. Phobias, sometimes debilitating mental health condition. So someone who has never experienced a phobia may just be ignorant to the intensity of anxiety and physical stress caused by a phobia. So jump into the types of phobias. So there are 3 main types of phobia, and these are as recognized by the American Psychiatric Association. And these include, so there's 3 main categories, and then there's some subs within the first one. So first of the main categories is called a specific phobia. And this is an intense, irrational fear to a specific trigger. So within the specific phobia category, there's 4 subgroups-ish. They are items and animals, which includes things like, snakes, spiders, dogs, etc. Environmental phobias like heights or water or darkness. Situational phobias, so things like fear of going to the dentist or flying. And then bodily, so needles and blood and all that good stuff.
Right.
The second main one is social phobia and social anxiety. So it's a profound fear of public humiliation, being singled out or judged by others in a social situation. The idea of, large social gatherings might be pretty terrifying for someone with social anxiety. PSA, I'm sure most of you good eggs are aware, being shy is not the same as having a social anxiety. It's like this person, if they have a social phobia, cannot go to the party because of how intense they're feeling. They're not just like, I might just stay in tonight.
Is that like agoraphobia?
That's the third one, actually. Agoraphobia is its own category.
Okay.
I learnt a lot about agoraphobia. I didn't know that I didn't know the right thing about it. So
I know someone that had it.
yeah. It's actually very common, actually. So yeah, category number 3 is agoraphobia. The main difference being the social phobia is very much that humiliation, being single, having to give a speech, like that terror that comes with the kind of interpersonal stuff.
Yeah.
Agoraphobia, I'm sure like a lot of people as well, misinterpreted that as like just fear of going outside the house. It's like, big scary outdoor spaces, or they're all tied in with anxiety, so it's going to be different for every person. But agoraphobia is the fear of situations from which it would be difficult to escape if a person were to experience extreme panic being outside the house. So it's kind of like the irrational fear of being in a situation or a place where you feel trapped or embarrassed or helpless, and you're not in your safe space like your home or whatever is comfortable to you. As I said before, it's commonly misunderstood as a fear of open spaces. It could also apply to being in confined spaces, like a small space such as an elevator, or being on public transport falls into agoraphobia too, because of, I guess, the root cause of it. And people with agoraphobia have an increased risk of panic disorder. It's actually the most common phobia is agoraphobia. It's the number one, basically, in terms of the categories.
Makes sense. Like if people are anxious and they're so anxious that they can't formulate like an exit strategy or like think clearly to be like, well, if that happens, I'll just go here, because that's not how anxiety works. So it doesn't surprise me.
So how do phobias develop? There's a bunch of different like lists and things that I found. I was going through, again, a lot of like medical journals and things. Every little clickbait article had this one up the top that was genetics. But I'm going to put together genetics/learned behavior as the first one. These clickbait articles keep citing this same journal for saying like genetics is a factor. I'm going to go read that journal. And then turns out that like it seems whoever writes clickbait articles really doesn't understand critical thinking or how to read a scientific study or paper. So basically they misinterpreted all of the data out of the journal. So
cherry picked it to fit their story.
Basically, it was kind of like I'll quote the exact sentence and you'll see where it kind of went wrong. The scientific journal that we're going to be quoting from here for a sec is called Specific Phobias by Eaton, Bienvenu and Milian. This is like the quote. Phobias are more likely to occur in people whose family members have phobias. That's the sentence that they probably just read that first sentence and went, bing bong, genetics. because the research was on, is there a correlation with genetics?
Yeah.
So the astute of you might go, there's probably more to that sentence, and there is. It goes on to say, so their specific modelling that they did of the data for genetic factors that influence animal and situational phobias, they are distinguishable from those that influence major depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, panic disorders, agoraphobia, social phobia. So they could, with their data, separate scared of dog versus having the social disorders, like the other flavors, basically.
Right.
Specific phobias also appear to be less genetically correlated with neuroticism and extroversion than other anxiety and depressive disorders, including social phobias, agoraphobias. So yeah, TLDR, the whole kind of study that they were doing was on nature versus nurture. So if your parent freaks out about spiders, you probably learned that behavior from watching your parent rather than inheriting it genetically. If, to get to the point of a phobia, not just a fear, like to get to the point of a phobia, you saw your mum like freak out, or your dad or whoever, nan freaks out about spiders, you learn that behavior and you freak out. You didn't just get the genetic of spider fear. Yeah. However, if your parent has, depression or anxiety, you're more likely to inherit that from them. So you could be more likely to inherit the social phobias, potentially genetic. But the scared of a dog is probably not genetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might get a wombo combo.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. I mean, potentially. You could inherit anxiety and then also develop a phobia if your parent is. Yeah. Yeah.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. Well, and where did that spider fear come from, We'll dig. We'll
I know
see,
exactly
we'll
where
see,
it
yeah.
came from.
The other most likely place that phobias develop is past incidents and trauma. So, for example, if you're attacked by a dog as a kid, you might develop a phobia of dogs. It's a very traumatic event. Or if you experienced a lot of turbulence on a plane at a young age, you might develop a phobia of flying. Essentially, some super scary, traumatizing events, and especially at a young age when you don't have the tools to process the trauma, or your parents didn't treat it, address it, help you manage it, sort of thing.
Get attacked by a dog and your dad's just like, walk it off!
Walk it off, man. Or after the medical, treatment is done. Like one of your friends, like their cousins, a friend of ours, their kid, she was like shit scared of Max and Lily and that. Like she didn't want to be near big dogs because she'd had a scary, like some little yappy dog had bowled her over and scared her. And then with all the adults being there that this kid trusts, going, would you like to play with the nice doggies? Like those interactions help that kid process it and go, okay, I know how to behave around a dog and not all dogs are scary, sort of thing. Like, not saying that kid has a phobia, but could have developed one. It's natural as a kid to be scared.
Every time the dog did something boisterous, she'd like freak out immediately.
Again, understandable because if you had a scary incident with a dog. But again, this is not making any commentary on everyone's parenting or anything like that, but like those things to help, like rather than avoiding meeting the dog, taking your kid proactively to go meet nice dogs will help them not fester that anxiety to then develop a phobia.
That's how I think a lot of psychologists treat it, is with exposure. So they'll...
there are certain... Yeah, that's one of the prongs for treatment. A few other ones for how you can develop one. Long-term stress is just, it's there. It's another way you can be formed. But those are usually more related to the social or situational phobias. Understandable. You're stressed out about certain things and fixating on it. And the last one was like super cruel to read about, which is you can develop a phobia from people's responses to another person's response. So, for example, if you freak out about a spider, like, oh my God, like scary spider, like I have a proper freak out about a spider, and then your friends or bystanders or family mock your reaction to being scared of the spider, that can then compound and manifest, like fixating on the embarrassing situation of, oh my God, I'm so weird that I freaked out about a spider. They focus and focus and focus on that to then it becomes I'm scared of being scared of the spider.
It's a combination of the social anxiety and the phobia.
Yeah, because
you're like, I better not like overreact and like make a scene here.
Exactly.
Because,
because you feel embarrassed to be called out about it, which is, I thought that was like, damn, that hurts. Like, and especially potentially as kids have got no bloody filter. Like they could so easily make fun of another kid for, oh my God, you're so weird for that. And it's just going to spiral. So be kind, eggies, be kind to one another, because hot damn, no one needs a phobia. Pop quiz, Alan, what percentage of the world do you think has a specific phobia? So one of the ones that's like dog, flying, heights, needle, etc.
How do they get that data? Because there'd be a lot of people that would lie about it, but
It's a general, like, people that have at least reported having a phobia.
Okay. I don't know, like 25%?
15%.
Okay.
According to this statistic, but that's not including agoraphobia, etc. That's just the specific phobias one.
Yeah, scared of snakes or spiders or drowning.
Yeah. Before we jump on as well to more just general discussion of fears and stuff and how they happen, why do they happen, I just wanted to mention as well that phobias are highly treatable. So speaking to a psychologist or psychiatrist or mental health professional is pretty much the first step in treating a phobia. Bonus points, you typically know that you have a phobia because you freak the F out about the spider. It's pretty easy to go, hi, I'm scared of the spider. And it's then, you don't have to go through discovery of finding what the root cause is. It's like, spider, okay, we can just go from there. Mm-hmm. Turns out the majority of people with phobias don't seek treatment. They just avoid the trigger. That can work for a lot of people. For others, it might be a lot harder to avoid that trigger. And most of them can actually be cured. It's just straight up statistically, most phobias can be cured with appropriate treatment. So the doctor might recommend behavioral therapy or medications or a combination, and sometimes desensitization and exposure therapy, like what we're, talking about with the dog. It's pretty crazy to know as well that like most phobias develop in childhood, but then manifest and have their most impact on the individual in adulthood. So you might be, dealing with it your whole life, but then it all gets kind of out of control in your adult life. So yeah, if you're dealing with a phobia, there's good news, guys. If you're listening, you got a phobia and it's kicking your ass, it can likely be helped. So, ask about. See what you got.
Does William have a phobia?
William has a phobia of not having enough love, I would say. Or at least a very big fear of not having enough love.
Or food.
I think he's pretty content with food. But the way he looks when he wants a pat, when he just looks through your soul, like Puss in Boots style, you're like, damn, son, like you are so loved, but you just fear not getting that pat.
Just for context, Will just jumped up on my lap.
For context, William is a cat also.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll circle back to just general fear for a little bit.
Okay.
So besides, the social and agoraphobia, which are both pretty common fears and phobias, they're more so than the specific phobias. The most common fears are fear of heights, by a huge margin apparently. Fear of heights is like basically number one. Fear of flying, fear of spiders, snakes, dogs, fear of needles, storms, the dark, violence, war, and death. They're kind of like the main ones.
Okay.
When I was like kind of looking at that list, I was like, okay, what are these, like, of this list of like, number one fears, what about that thing is like the root cause of a fear? And like, when you look at it, 90% of the things on those lists could kill you. Falling from a great height, you're dead. A spider or snake bites you, you're dead. Dog attack, potential dead. Likelihood to like injure yourself in the dark or fall down a flight of stairs, you're dead. Violence, pretty obvious one, you're dead. When you think about it, these are all pretty reasonable things to fear. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
And it turns out I'm not wrong. If humans weren't afraid, we wouldn't live very long.
Yeah. Fear's useful.
Yeah. In humans and in all animals, the purpose of fear is to promote survival. So it's an evolutionary benefit and it's instinctual as well to avoid, dangerous heights, protect your face and brain from a projectile if it's coming towards you. So to do that whole, bring your hands up to your face and protect your dome is pretty instinctual. And it's pretty normal as well to, seek and find, the source of the bang, seek safety from a potential loud noise or threat.
Yeah.
So all of these things, hey, don't die. In terms of like the bodily response to fear as well, as soon as you recognize a fear, your amygdala, which is a nice little organ in the middle of your brain, goes to work. It basically alerts the nervous system, sets off all the bells and whistles for your body's fear response. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline get released. Your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate increases, you start breathing faster, and your blood flow changes actually. Your blood starts flowing away from your heart and into your limbs, basically making it easy for you to either start, throwing punches or running for your life.
All sounds familiar.
Yeah, all sounds pretty par for the course. Anyone that's had any sort of fear reaction ever, which is, I'd say, the majority of people. There's a part in your brain as well called the hippocampus, and that's closely connected to the amygdala. And the hippocampus is not just where hippopotamuses go to get tertiary education. The hippocampus... Thank you. The hippocampus and prefrontal cortex help the brain interpret the perceived threat. So they're kind of like involved in the high level processing bit where they're like, okay, it helps you distinguish context. So if you're out for a walk and you go, oh, wild bear, oh, holy shit, danger, there's a wild bear, oh my God. Versus there's a bear at the zoo. I know that there's, bulletproof glass or whatever, or bear-proof glass. Oh, wow, what a nice bear. How majestic.
I'll be wary of it, but I'm pretty safe.
Yeah, you're within the human logical context. You're at a proper zoo. You're not in someone's backyard. Like, you're safe. Like, so yeah, the hippocampus and that figures that out for you. Of like, the bear is still a threat, but you have got the context of wild, extra danger. It's in a box. I'm good.
Yeah.
Alan, at the risk of giving the internet a deep insight into your psyche, do you have any general fears? Now, you might have mentioned one a little bit earlier, but do you have any general fears?
Yeah, I mean, I've got generalized anxiety disorder.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned spiders earlier. You afraid of heights, afraid of the dark, any of that kind of fun stuff?
No, I don't mind the dark. I'm not afraid of heights in that, like, I've worked at heights before. I can walk to the edge of a building, like at the glass, and look down, and that doesn't bother me. But I would never jump out of an aeroplane.
Yeah.
I'd never skydive or bungee jump or anything.
Your hippocampus is giving you enough context for, like, don't want to risk it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's cool. Like, you're safe on this ledge. The ground's certain, but just don't jump out of a friggin' airplane. Like, there's no need.
What is the purpose? We'll get into the purpose for that a bit later, but what is the purpose? And just so it's not all one-sided in terms of my fears. I like heights. I don't know if I've got like an adrenaline issue or something where I'm just like, yeah, man, being up high is fun. I like roller coasters, that sort of vibe. The one exception to heights was when I was filming that Pokemon Go video at the cliffs on Bondi. So it was like, if you want to find it, I should probably find the name of the video, but it was like the little best friend buddy campaign. And there's like this awesome, like, hero shot, like walking across the cliffs, and took all these photos. I was like, all right, we are literally 10 stories up. Like, we are at the top of a proper, like, not skyscraper. We are genuinely 10 floors up. And you would just fall and hit the ocean. But like, my issue was that my shoes were so chunky. They weren't like outdoor adventuring, exploring shoes. I was like, I have no control or grip. So the whole time my brain's just like, boo. And I'm like, it was this weird conflict of being like, this is so beautiful, amazing, and like being up high, and then being like, I might fall because of these shoes. So I literally just scooted around on my bum, like everywhere up on top of the platform to get around, because I was like, I'm not going to do that. I like the ocean. I like scuba diving. Don't have issues with spiders and sharks and snakes and all that. I, very much on the whole respect their zone sort of thing. My general fear is existential dread, which is at the risk of triggering someone else's existential dread. We're going to move on really quickly. But yeah, that's my thing. I got curious in the scrolling as well, like when I was trying to think about what things I was afraid of. And I was like, I'm not afraid of like sharks in the water. And I was like, I wonder if people that like, don't have access to water probably wouldn't have a...
Oh, I'm terrified of sharks.
Yeah. There's another one. Just anything that can eat you, or just sharks.
Oh, it's a fear thing. It's like I go in the water and I swim. Yeah. Once I'm in the water swimming, I don't think about sharks. Yeah. But before I go in the water, I'm like, is today the day?
Is today. But I have to punch a great white shark in the head today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, someone that lives in the desert, that grows up inland somewhere, their default first fear probably is going to be sharks. But if you're living on the coast, if you've got a surfy family, you probably are going to be more... it's more in your brain sort of thing. So I was like, I wonder if there's, different fears based on country or culture or whatever it may be. So, as we learnt earlier, many of the fears and phobias develop around exposure to specific things or events in a person's life, which, again, naturally is going to be different for every single person on Earth. But they would also be influenced by their, specific geographic location and local culture. I guess a bit of an anecdotal experience. For me, I don't have a fear of, getting mugged. Like, if I went for a walk around Newcastle at night... like, it's more than likely to be a very boring, uneventful walk. Like, I innately do not have that concern. Obviously, you'd be street smart, but, like, it's not going to happen in the likelihood. If we're talking like percentages, like, I'm going to be walking fine.
Whereas I've been involved in several attempted mugging violence.
Yes. Well, we're gonna get into that. Potentially. But I more just mean in terms of like I'm not saying like I'm going out on a Friday night or a Saturday night when people are like at the pubs and blah, blah, blah. I'm saying like going for a walk at night in your street, in your neighborhood, whatever. Like there's going to be literally nothing going on unless you live somewhere super dicey.
Yeah, slim to no chance.
Yeah. However, I guess my second time going to Chicago, everyone on Twitter was basically telling me, don't go to this location, don't go to this street, don't go to XYZ south, north of here, like you will get mugged. Like do not go here, you will die. And I'm like, all right, I probably should have been more alert my first time here, you know, even though I was made very aware very quickly in Chicago that I needed to be careful of my personal safety because I was followed by about 10 different people in the space of an hour. Did not enjoy. Sorry, Chicago. But beautiful architecture. But essentially, one night we were like all in dinner, having dinner in Chicago. So Yuri, she's from Japan. She was basically like, oh, you know, good night, everyone. I'm going to go walk home to my hotel. And I'm like, boo! Like, no, you're not. You're not going to hold 1 second right here, Yuri. And I'm like, went and got Geo and Nick and that. And, you know, Nick's natural response was, yeah, no, you not, that's not going to happen. Like, because he's grown up in the States. And, you know, the three of us walked her to her hotel. Super uneventful. She was staying in like the financial district, so there was no one out at night anyway. But like just that context of, I guess, growing up in a place where, you know, like in Japan, you can walk around at night, no issues. Australia, you can walk around within reason at night, no issues. To then like how you could potentially just get into accidental trouble being somewhere where that's not the case. You're so familiar with not having that fear because it's never been a thing. Even for, I guess, my first time in Chicago, my Uber driver, like going back to, I was staying at like this little backpacker kind of hotel thing. She's like driving up and there was like a spot to pull over, like a good 50 meters down the road or something. And I was like, oh, you can like pull over here. There's a free spot. My hotel's like up on the corner. And this woman was like, no, this is not a parody of like her voice. She was literally like, no, hell no, girl. Like, we are going to get you home safe. Like, she was full on, like, snapped straight into like, I ain't leaving you here. We go into the, like, she like may have parked in a way that was not standard, like right in front of the hotel, because she was like even walking 50 meters here. She's like, I'm not cool with that. Like, I got to keep you safe. And I'm like, oh, I underestimated my safety sort of thing. Like, again, possibly nothing would have happened. But like having grown up there, she would rather park in a way that's maybe a shady parking spot, watch me go into the hotel, than to let me walk 50 meters, 20 meters, whatever.
What a gem.
Absolute champion. She was the loveliest. She was so nice. So yeah, I basically got scrolling, got thinking, so how do fears vary by country? A big one, when I was looking at like different surveys that had been done, a big one was disease. COVID kind of threw a spanner in that one. But typically a lot of areas that are struggling with poverty or social economic issues, like that was pretty high up there, disease was one of the biggest fears. Nuclear war, religious, ethnic, or cultural persecution was pretty up there, especially if you're growing up in a place of conflict and turmoil. And then inequality was one of the main ones in Europe and the Americas, just general social inequality. So, your human rights.
Okay.
I was pretty interested to find as well, in Japan, there was a specific phobia that is just for Japan, or it is recognized in Japan as a phobia. Not quite so much outside of Japan, but it's called Taijin Kyufusho. Taijin Kyufusho. And it is a specific culturally bound Japanese form of social phobia and anxiety disorder.
Right.
So typically in Japanese culture, it's stressed that the good of the group kind of triumphs over the desire of the individual. So keeping the group happy is pretty massive, like in Japan. So it's rather than a fear of being embarrassed by other people, this phobia is marked by a fear of one's own personal appearance, physical body, or their actions offending others. Like, am I causing discomfort to other people? Do I smell? Am I stinky and people don't like me? Is my face ugly and I'm causing people discomfort to have to look at me? Like, did I speak too loud? All those sorts of things where it's like, because there's such an emphasis on everyone getting along as a group, there's stress on the individual for how you're being perceived by the group sort of thing.
Yeah, phobia of being inconsiderate.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, even though you're probably totally not being inconsiderate, yeah.
Yeah, but they're worried they'll be perceived as being...
Yeah. So yeah, if you're someone who had this phobia in Japan, you might be intensely fearful, of your body's appearance or functioning, and thinking that it's offensive or displeasing to others.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like why when we went to Japan, you were kind of like, oh, if you need to like blow your nose or something, like... You
get up and go to the bathroom.
Go somewhere, like go to the bathroom to do it or leave the room.
Yeah.
Like...
Or like you don't talk on the train, you don't answer the phone on the train, like all of those sorts of things where it's like you don't want to disrupt the group. Yeah.
Yeah. And like into context, like I'm not snotty nose man.
No.
But I if I see a chili ramen, I'm gonna get amongst it. And you know, that makes your nose run. So it was quite challenging.
I can't believe you were allowing your ramen desires to allow you to be your body to be offensive to others. Can't believe you've done this. You did the thing. You do the thing. When you travel, you do the thing. You respect. You did it.
Yeah.
You got up and you did the nose thing. It's all good. There was another one that I found for it was kind of hard to find exact ones because there was more generalized about like, you know, the nuclear war and things like that, or bigger ticket issues, as opposed to like, you know, is Australia afraid of sharks? I found a really interesting USA specific one. I guess as a fact, we know that flying is statistically safer than driving, but far more people fear flying than, you know, the daily task of driving. Like you don't generally get scared of getting in your car. Again, unless you've had a traumatic experience, like people jump in their car, they go for gold, drive away. One particular study showed that in the months following 9/11, people in the USA's immediate fear and aversion to flying caused more people to drive instead, and then may have led to over 2,000 more road deaths than was statistically projected for that time of year normally. So because of the fear, again, understandably so, at that time, more people drove instead of flying, even though it still would have been safer potentially to fly. And to quote from the study directly, our findings reveal an additional 344 driving fatalities per month for the period from October to December 2001. Further analysis suggests that the 9/11 effect weakened over time and that a cumulative 2,170 lives may have been lost because of the reaction to the attacks.
Wow.
Yeah, just a lot. Like, that's a lot of people, especially if it's like, you know, road statistics weren't supposed to be that. Pretty wild. But thankfully, again, yeah, as I said, the effect weakened over time. So it like tapered off as people got more comfortable with flying again. Alan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you know the classic responses to fear?
Aggression?
Yes. What might aggression be known as if I was to, I'm scared of the thing. What am I going to do? A snake.
What, like going, you bastard?
No,
Like,
no. Oh, you bastard. No. Like, what is it? What are the terms called? Like, what are some of the ways you could react to, oh my God, a snake. My course of action is A, B, C, or D. Like,
take its head off with the shovel.
Not the literal actions. Okay. Oh my God. Different people react in different ways, yeah?
Fight or flight?
Hey, there you go. There's two of them. Nailed it. Yeah.
Fright.
No, that's...
Freeze.
We're going to get into all of them. Yes, fight or flight. Also, bonus ones. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are the 4 Fs.
Fawn.
Fawning
over the snake?
Not quite snake related, but
look at his little cheeks. Please don't kill me.
You're going to regret making it all the way when we get to it, but...
Okay.
It's more social. That the fawn is more social.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty standard. People know fight and flight. Like that's pretty. Yeah. It triggered my fight or flight response. Freeze is pretty well known. I think like that's or at least getting more well known. But as you kind of demonstrated, fawn is not. Fawn is a lot less known of, even though people might have experienced it physically. It's not one of the ones that gets mentioned a lot. But all of them pretty much essentially boil down to a response your brain deems the best to help you stay alive in the situation. And pretty much everyone's would have likely experienced all of them at least one time or another because, you know, every fear situation is different. You know, a snake isn't the same as almost electrocuting yourself, etc. So the first one is fight. So for fight, when you feel in danger and you believe you can overpower the threat, you are going to be in fight mode. And your brain's sending signals to, you know, throughout your body to rapidly prepare for physical demands of fighting. For example, Alan, you're a nice big strong man. If some little calcium deficient rat tried to fight you and mug you, you'd probably have no problem, you know, defeating the threat through fight, even though I'm sure you'd prefer to opt to use your words. But you have the capacity to fight response, yeah?
Sure.
Yeah. The second one is flight. So this is, you know, believing that you can defeat the danger by running away. And in a lot of cases, you know, running away is, you know, retreating is going to be the best decision anyway. For example, burning building. Unless you're the responding firefighter, you should be running in the opposite direction
Punching
of the start punching the fire.
bricks.
Take that, fire. You should be running away from the fire. Yes. Unless you're the firefighter, run towards it, please. Yes. Or, a snake on a bushwalk, it's probably going to be best to just avoid the conflict and walk away, back away slowly. That's flight. Freeze is pretty complex, I guess. Freeze is for when one feels like neither fighting nor flighting. So freezing is an option. While the person who is frozen is still extremely alert, they're also unable to move or take action against the danger. Freezing typically causes physical immobility. It can cause a drop in heart rate rather than an increase, and it can cause muscle tension as well. The freeze stage as well, depending on the person and the scenario, is usually temporary. Your brain is, racing to take in as much information as possible in a short amount of time to decide the best course of action and what to do next. Some people do just freeze and freeze, they can just pass out and freeze, but usually the first step is you freeze and then respond.
Is that kind of somehow related to when I had sleep paralysis? I couldn't move.
That's your body is physically not awake yet in sleep paralysis.
Because I had a nightmare, and then the nightmare was scary, then I woke up and I couldn't move.
No, sleep paralysis is a physical. Your brain hasn't started up, preheated your car engine yet, sort of thing. You physically cannot move in sleep paralysis, I believe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess it'd be the same kind of thing. But say you're conscious, if someone jumps around a corner at you and goes blah, 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 you might freeze for a moment to take the second to go, am I going to punch this person in the face, or is it a kid that's trying to prank their friend and it was a mistake? Or am I going to run away from the... Yeah, punch and then you punch the kid in the face. And then you run away from the scene. You flee. Freezing kind of covers hiding as well. So it's the time to assess the situation. You might want to hide and take some cover, or generally just cease movement. Mm-hmm. So a good example as well of this is if someone else comes bolting around the corner being chased by a dog, the freeze response might be the best because your brain is observing, hey, that dog is chasing moving target. Stay still. It might just not. It's just gonna keep following. Sorry, old mate, but that's you got to deal with that sort of thing.
Sure.
The final one is fawn. Not like Bambi. One may generally use the fawn response after unsuccessfully trying fight, flight, and freeze. So it's kind of typically is the last resort sort of thing, or depends on the situation. The world's messy. Mm-hmm. But the fawn response is it's typically prominent in people who grew up in abusive families or situations. So yeah, as I said, you're gonna feel bad about making ooh. It's okay. It's okay. You didn't intentionally go out to bully anyone, but now think about what you've done.
I was talking about snakes.
I know. It's fine. I know you're talking about snakes. But for example, if you're a kid that was, had abusive or narcissistic parents, your only hope for survival or, not having negative issues potentially would likely be to be agreeable and helpful. Agreeable and helpfulness to avoid conflict. For example, if I don't do XYZ thing, I'll get hit, so that person might proactively or reactively cooperate. Mm-hmm. Essentially, survival by cooperation. Another example, I guess, if you're kidnapped, you're restrained, there's no option for fight, flight, or freeze. You've tried all these options. They're out the window. You are at the second location. You tried kicking out the taillight. You've been kidnapped. It's not going to do you much benefit at this point to do those things potentially. Freeze isn't going to do anything except for maybe give you more information, and so therefore fawn is your best chance of survival. Talking to that person using, agreeableness, I'm going to be nice and friendly, and we can you can then make your option for escape, hopefully, etc. Mm-hmm. Using your words. And just want to be really clear here as well, this is not to be misinterpreted as actual fondness towards the aggressor. It's just doing what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fawn can also be used to de-escalate an incident before it comes to needing fight or flight. I'm sure if anyone is feminine looking and goes to a club, they've probably all experienced oh, haha, you're so very funny, nice, haha. I'm going to de-escalate this weird, creepy dude by being super agreeable and oh no, I'm so busy tonight. Thank you so much. That sort of thing as well can be fawning, where it's you're avoiding this escalating to me getting grabbed or assaulted or harassed by appearing friendly, cooperative, etc. to preemptively avoid the fight or flight. Mm-hmm. Or, dudes probably do it too. I shouldn't have said feminine. Anyone who's been in that situation. Alan, have you experienced fight, flight, freeze or fawn? Or all of the above?
Yes. Pretty much all of them. Maybe not. I don't think if I've done fawn before, possibly. Possibly to try and placate somebody.
Yeah, or you could be using humour to disarm.
I could see it was escalating to behaviour that I've seen before. I know where this is going. Yeah. So, like, try to put them in a good mood or something. Yeah. When I was...
You can see someone's a bit aggro and they're going to try and start something, and you can be like, use humour to disarm and, you know, be agreeable in some way to...
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially. There's like another deep little, like a rabbit hole went down a little bit. So there's a lot of other wild fear responses on like the micro level in your gut, in your body. So things like, you know, trusting your gut, or like, oh, I've got a gut feeling about certain things. Like, you know, walking around it, you know, people might remark, oh, that person gave me a weird vibe, or, you know, your gut feeling that someone's watching you or following you or something's watching you. And then, you know, you later on find out like, oh, there was a fox in the park, like watching us, or whatever it may be. Yeah. But you consciously can't place why. And this is it's pretty cool. Like, it's your body's natural response, and it's super efficient at processing information in the wild, out and about in the world, or even, you know, in your house. But hearing tiny sounds that you're not conscious of, your brain still hears it. Reading microfacial expressions and body language of other people. Again, you might be drinking and being like, you know, having a good time, you're incapacitated, but your brain is still reading like, yeah, something sus about old love, but you know, this person's a bit not getting the right vibe. Also things like, you know, spatial awareness of others in your nearby area. Your brain's super good at just processing all this, even if it doesn't tell you why. So long story short, it's a whole nother cool topic, but if you're in a mildly sketch situation, just trust your gut. There's a very likely chance that your subconscious mind is warning you for a reason. Again, I'm not referring to anxiety here. Like, anxiety kind of does that. Be like, someone's watching me, I feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm not referencing that. If you've got that gut vibe of like, seems a bit sketch, just trust your gut. Like, your brain is doing so much work in the background that what's the harm?
Yes.
Yeah, in trusting your gut. I mean, and keep yourself safe.
Trust your lizard brain.
Yeah, trust the reptile brain, man. It's like it knows what's up. Our last little topic here in the fear category is fear for fun. Why do many of us experience joy or excitement doing something that could be potentially dangerous, or something that is inherently fear-inducing? Roller coasters, throwing yourself out a plane. As you mentioned before, you were like, hell no, I ain't doing the plane thing. So
when I built a V8 car that was 400 rear wheel horsepower.
Don't know what that means, but go for gold.
It was very fast, as you know.
I know that it was fast, yep.
It was very dangerous.
Yep.
Why?
Why you do this?
Why did you need that?
Feels good.
And yeah.
Your bloody amygdala.
It was just fun.
Yeah.
Until I got speeding fines, and then I sold it.
Yep. Lodge, that's the context brain coming in. But yeah, why do the humans do things like roller coasters, watching scary movies, haunted house rides, jump out of a plane, bungee jumping?
Because their fiance makes them.
Yes. That one, you had fun on the roller coaster. You enjoyed it when it was done. You didn't enjoy the line. The anticipation is a big part of it.
Yeah. I had a bad experience on a roller coaster when I was a kid, so I don't like roller coasters because I don't like putting myself through unnecessary fear and stress. And then Zoe was like, you have to we're in Japan at Universal Studios.
Disney.
Or Disney, whatever. It was both of them, because Universal Studios
Universal
had
for
the Indiana Jones
sorry,
stuff.
yeah.
Zoe's like, you got to do it. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. But then it's like, oh, we've got to line up for like nearly 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's a lot of time to be like,
thinking about.
No, fuck this, and just walking off.
And as we're getting closer as well, and because you couldn't really see the ride from the outside, but like as you're in the line, you can see the mechanics of things a bit more. And the hundreds of tiny Japanese schoolgirls that are like, like screaming their brains out wasn't probably helping the situation.
And not only that, but
the intense emotion.
It looked like it was modelled off Temple of Doom.
I think it was, yeah.
So it had all this like scaffolding and shit everywhere that it's like, yeah, that's going to take your head off. Like, I'm a bit taller than your average Japanese schoolgirl.
Yeah, just a little bit, but a
couple
of centimeters
tall. My
legs
are dangling. I'm like, I'm going to snap my shit up on.
But
once we started going, I was like,
you were giggling
yelling.
like a Japanese schoolman. I
let out a big Wolverine yell, and then I was like, ha 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 ha.
It was good. Lines suck, but that was fun.
I like the Final Fantasy one.
You made me line
When
up
they
for
put
a
the-
solo rider on the at Universal on the Jurassic Park ride though. That was sad.
Remember that there was a Final Fantasy one that was
Like
a
a
roller
VR,
coaster,
yeah.
but then they put VR goggles on you as well.
Yeah. that
So
was cool.
you're going on a roller coaster, but you've got VR on and you're
Yeah.
watching like
You can't see where you're physically going on the roller.
you can just feel the inertia, and
Feel the
then you're
Gs.
watching Cloud and Sephiroth having this fight and smashing
cool.
through buildings and
Yeah.
shit. That was really cool,
It was very good.
but never again.
You say that.
Anyway, off topic.
No, it's not. It's pretty well on topic. Of course, like a lot of people are different. I'm saying like, why do humans like doing these things? But as you just pretty clearly described, there's a lot of people that don't like doing those things. You do you, boo. Don't jump out of a plane if you don't want to. That's fine. But a lot of humans do find enjoyment from controlled scares and things like that. Yeah. Long story short, for why the human brain likes a good scare, likes a bit of fear, is that cheeky old amygdala is back at it again. That amygdala in the brain. They're back. Some of the main chemicals that contribute to our fight or flight response are also involved in positive emotional states like joy and excitement. But what makes the difference between getting a rush and feeling completely terrorized? A lot of studies have suggested that a major factor in experiencing fear has to do with context. So good old hippocampus is back too. So when our thinking brain gives feedback to our emotional brain and we perceive ourselves as being safe, we're in a safe space, we can quickly shift the way that we experience the high arousal state, going from fear to enjoyment or excitement. And I want to be very clear here, arousal does not mean pee hard arousal. I'm talking about arousal just means stimulation or reaction. Get your head out of the gutter, you grubs. So for example, when you enter a haunted house ride, you anticipate, you got that anticipation going, you're expecting a monster to jump out at you, and you know it's not a threat. Like you know that it's pretend. So your brain is able to quickly contextualize the experience. You know that it's not actually a man with a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. In contrast, if you're walking, down the street at 1 a.m. and in the dimly lit back alley of 123 Crack Street and a stranger starts chasing you, your emotional and thinking areas of the brain are going to be in agreement. This is dangerous and it's time to leg it. So the context is king, basically.
Sure.
So yeah, amygdala's just popping off all the chemicals. Hippocampus is assessing the context as you go through. And when we're able to recognize what is and isn't a real threat, we can relabel an experience and enjoy the thrill of the moment. A lot of it boils down, as I said, to the context and the feeling of control. You're in control. You entered the haunted house. You know. Also, for example, we know and trust that Freddy Krueger can't jump through the TV. We know and trust that good old Cynthia's got 10 years of experience in packing parachutes and tying bungee cords. You can, depending on the person, you can rationalize that context of safety.
She's been doing it for 10 years and she's burnt out. She's
I
just
was
going to make
say
a
20
mistake.
years, but I didn't want to. I was thinking maybe burnt out at 20. But that context allows you to push through the initial fight or flight rush. And you're often left feeling satisfied and reassured of the safety and more confident in the ability to, confront things that are initially scary to you. So for me, a big thing that I like is I do like a good scary movie. Love a good bit of horror. But I fucking hate jump scares. Like, I find them the cheapest form of scares in the context of a movie. If it's an actual haunted house, obviously that's part of the physical. You're supposed to jump, you're supposed to run and go, you got me.
Fuck you.
But like, when you're at home, you don't want like bing, bang, bong, big scary noises. For me, it's like in a movie, yeah, no shit, I jumped. I was probably just startled by the loud noise. Like me dropping pots and pans in the kitchen is going to have the exact same response as your jump scare sort of thing. I don't mind if some scenes in a movie, are startling. That's fine. But it's the bing bang bong. I get like a cheap, shitty jump scare that's just like, I'm not going to scream in the microphone in case you're driving, but like someone drops a pot and pan and goes, there's a ghost in the screen. I get like my fight, flight or fawn takes over and I get irrationally angry. And then I'm so focused on being so pissed off and angry that it takes me 10 minutes to like simmer down until I get back into enjoying the movie because I'm like, I'm going to punch your fucking ghost face, which is really annoying. So if it's got a jump, like a shitty jump scare in it, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of cheap. Like,
yeah, it's lazy.
Like, what was it? Like Hereditary. It didn't have any jump scares and it was just like really tense and you just felt exhausted after it.
I think there's two like startles, but there's none that are accompanied by like a loud clanging noise. Like there is just long periods of just intense like acting and like
The Witch is another.
you taking my suggestions at the end here.
Okay.
That's I'm good. I'm glad that I'm on the money. Like The Witch has got spelt Vivitch, VVITCH, all caps. But yeah, The Witch has got 0. I'm pretty sure 0 jump scares. Like there's no bing bang bong sound jumps. It's just like incredibly uncomfortable the whole time. It's great.
Yeah.
Shout out to Black Phillip. Yeah, I was like, that was literally my next thing was I was going to suggest a couple of scary movies. If you're a bit of a scary movie fan, Alan's already said Witch. These ones have no jump scares. So yeah, Witch, Black Coat's Daughter, Hereditary, as we said, has some startles but no jump scares.
The Shining.
Yeah, Shining, yeah.
It's long, like, because it's an old movie, so the pacing is takes its time, but
it's not dull at any point.
No, it's just
as your local ADHD haver, like I can watch The Shining without getting bored. It's still very visually interesting, and like the people's faces, even if they're just talking for a good 5 minutes, the intensity of like the facial acting is very engaging to be like, what's going on there?
Is that show on Netflix?
Haunting of Hill House?
Yeah.
That was look at you go. You're just like reading my list.
I'm not.
I know you're not, but like you're reading my list mentally. Yeah, Haunting of Hill House. I think it has exactly 1 jump scare towards the end.
Oh, when they're in the...
Let's not spoil anything, but there's something happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like it's pretty well earned at that point, and it serves a purpose for like...
Context-wise.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like that's the only jump scare that's been like, again, it's like a startle. But like, I was like, oh, you earned that. Like the tension in that scene is so high that it kind of like helps end that scene and let it progress. But yeah, highly recommend Haunting a Hill House. You may cry a lot though.
Yeah.
It's beautifully done, but big on the feels.
It's
and the spooky ghosts.
It's emotionally exhausting as well as being very creepy and very well done.
And hidden ghosts in the background.
Yeah, so many.
And crazy good child actors, like weirdly good. Like how does a 4-year-old deliver a 60-second no cut dialogue? Good on you, little 4-year-old.
I know. She's stiff competition for public Wi-Fi man.
You got to take so many takes for public Wi-Fi man. And last one I had recommended was Annihilation. I don't recall 100% if there's again some startles, but it's more based around just the kind of like, wow, everything's a bit weird here, and like the intensity. Plus all female cast. Go support. Any other recommendations for any spooky fun activities, Alan? On the Fear episode?
Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh, yeah. Game? You mean? Yeah, the game. Yeah, that's great.
What other games I played that are spooky?
Oh, Alien Isolation.
Oh. I just put...
Would you like to...
gave up and had to watch a playthrough. I couldn't do it.
Would you like to...
It was terrifying.
If you are not someone who experiences anxiety... If you would like to like speed run an anxiety simulator, like if you'd like to experience for the day, for the night, what anxiety might feel like for someone else, play Alien Isolation, because holy dooly, it's so simple, but it's so tense.
Yeah, like I literally would put the controller down and be like, I don't want to go into the next area.
Yeah,
I would get in like a vent or a cupboard or whatever and just be like, no, yeah, I'm not moving.
It's like insanely well designed as well, because like depending what difficulty you play it as, I think at most of the difficulties anyway, it punishes you for being too loud, and it punishes you for staying still too often. So if you hide for too long, the alien will find you, and if you're too loud, the alien will find you. So it's like it very much makes you have to keep going, oh, fight or flight. Like, gotta make a quick decision. Like, do I freeze? Like, do I hide and hope the alien doesn't see me? Like, you have to be constantly making a choice. You can play with your controller's microphone on as well. So if you physically, as a human, make a sound, it goes through your PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
And the alien can hear you. Which is awesome.
So if your mum walks into the room and goes, dinner's almost ready, it's like, oh, shit, mum.
Yeah.
Got us killed.
Damn it, mum. I almost got made to the end of the game. God damn it. Yes.
Do you think this is a game, woman?
Yes. Highly recommend. Play it. Or watch someone else play it. But yeah, that's kind of it for the fears and the phobies. Final parting words. Just want to chuck in there. I know you guys are good eggs, probably, hopefully. You better be, or else stop listening. Remember to be respectful. Give the respect for people's phobias. something that seems silly to you because, you can rationalize that it's a threat. A person with a phobia doesn't have that ability to just switch it off. They likely know that it's irrational, but that's the thing, Cap. It's irrational. So be a good egg. Be a good eggy.
Yeah.
Thank you for a nice, insightful little chat about fears and phobias, Alan.
No problem. Yeah, I think, I guess on that note, I was probably, I think in my circle of friends from high school, I might have been, I guess, one of the only ones in that circle that was, I guess, quite open in my early 20s about, having problems with anxiety and depression and all that other good stuff. And yeah, a lot of them were like, I haven't experienced it myself, but it sounds horrible and I'm here for you. So even if you don't experience it, just listen.
Yeah.
Be there for people.
Yeah. And don't do a spider prank if your friend's afraid of a spider or something. Like, if someone's going to confide in you, like, hey, I have this phobia, let's not hold someone hostage.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a fear and it's all fun and games with your friends, sure. But if you know your friend's got like a proper phobia, like, yeah, be there for them.
Don't be a dick.
Champ. Yeah. Be a legend, as we say.
Don't throw a huntsman at the person and make them nearly run onto the road and get run over.
That's happened to you.
Yes, it has.
Not by me. I threw the huntsman out the car. I took a spider in my hand to save you, good sir. Keep being good eggs, be champions, be legends. Appreciate yous listening. What do you got on the cards for next week, Alan?
I don't know.
I told you earlier.
Did you?
Not today. I told you like last week, I think.
Oh, well, yeah.
I lied. I'm so sorry.
What is next week?
Ghosts.
Oh, spooky ghosts scare me.
Scary clown. What? Spooky clowns scare me. Yes.
But ghosts.
Yeah. Ghosts, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question on the Twitter for you guys. So go and peep podcast A2Z on the Twitter. So I may have a ghost related question. Do you believe? Do you want to believe? Boot. Insert X-Files theme here. You need like 2 people to achieve it, don't you?
Copyright strike.
Damn it. All right, guys. Have a good one. Thank you for listening. Share it with your mum or something if you think they would like the podcast too. Appreciate getting the word out there, etc. Let your mum know that we're inconsistent, but, that maybe she'd like us talking about random stuff. Or anyone. Tell a friend. Have a good one. We'll talk to you next episode.